Here now is the head chef of the Pemberton Township Food Service Program and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello, welcome once again to What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli, and today we're going to show you how you can make a lot of dessert with a little dough. What we're talking about today is Danish, and true Danish dough is made up of a soft dough, usually a soft roll type of dough with special flours, and then today we have different conditioners that go into commercial doughs, also different types of fats and shortening, and a particular type of rolling that goes into the making of a proper Danish. However, I'd like to show you folks at home how if you have nothing more than a roll dough that you really like, or one that you can make at home without a problem, you can make some very nice desserts from it. Now, I find that people are reluctant to try making rolls at home because they end up with too much dough. So what I want to show you is if you have a roll dough and you've made it up and you've made up some rolls for dinner, carry on with that dough, because what we're going to show you with a soft roll dough today is how to make a mock Danish, or they're going to look like Danish. Everybody's going to eat them and enjoy them and tell you how wonderful they are, but we're going to be the only ones that know it's not Danish. So what you want to start out with is a soft roll dough. Now, this roll dough that I have in front of me is a dough that was made and it has been proofed once. Now what that means is we put the dough in a mixer, we made up a dough, we kneaded it until it became smooth, came away from the sides of the bowl, then we put it in a bowl, covered it, kept it in a warm spot till it doubled in size. What we did with it then was to punch it down, knead it into a nice little ball again, and then we let it raise back up. So this is the second proof of this soft roll dough, and we're going to show you what you can do with that. Now I want to show you some of the things that you've got to have. You have your dough that's ready to roll. Now while you're waiting for that, you can either use a filling that you purchase, or you can use filling that you make up. And I can tell you that not only will you use more imagination making up your own, going through the cupboards on things that you have that are not moving, but it's also going to give you more variety, and you're going to feel a lot better knowing exactly what's in it. You're going to find that you don't use half the preservatives some of the commercial folks use. So what you need is an egg wash. Now, you've seen us do that before. This is a quart measure. What we do with this is break an egg or two in it, beat it up real good. That's a pastry brush in there. We beat the egg up real good, and then we put in some milk. So that's nothing more than an egg wash. You've seen us use that a lot. So we have that ready. And these are the things you do while you're getting your dough ready. We have some raisins, and what I did was cook some raisins with sugar and water, and we thickened that with a little bit of cornstarch and cold water. We pared a few apples, so I have some apple filling here. And again, if you're going to make a lot, you could get the little cans of the filling, but if you have apples that aren't being eaten at home, just peel them down and mix them up and thicken them with a little bit of cornstarch. I also have what seems to be a big favorite, are pineapple chunks. Now, I particularly don't like them, so when I'm done with them and I have some left over, we cook them up and make a filling out of them, and they go really fast in the Danish. And the type of filling that is a little tough to use all the time is a streusel, and this is kind of a crumb topping that you've seen us use on coffee cake. And all this is flour and sugar with a little bit of mace and cinnamon and sugar in it. And mace is a spice that's a lot like cinnamon. It's a little stronger. Now the last one that we need is cinnamon and sugar, and that's here in this yellow bowl, and I'm going to park that right out here out of the way. We're going to take a board and we're going to flour the board. Now you're going to see that we're going to use quite a bit of flour on the board in the beginning, because what we're going to do is push off the excess from the dough when we're done. Now we pick up this dough, and without disturbing it any more than we have to, I'm going to set that dough right here, and I'm going to cut that in half, because it's easier to work with smaller amounts of dough till you get the hang of it. Normally a piece this size would be rolled right out with no problem. So we cut that in half, and I'm going to make sure that's floured. Now I'm handling this very, very lightly because I don't want to make it tough. In other words, if we keep handling this, the more we handle it, the tougher it's going to get. Now if you watch what I do, we're going to press this out nice and flat. And you notice I started out with a half moon shape. And what I'm doing the whole time that I'm pushing this is I'm pushing this into a rectangular shape. And now I'm going to knock out some of the air out of that. And I'm just patting that down. Sort of the way you do pizza. You'd start pizza off the very same way. except you might be going for a round shape or for a rectangular shape also. Now we're going to, little flour on our rolling pin and a little more flour on that. And I'm going to make sure that this isn't sticking, okay? If it hasn't stuck, we're in great shape. It's kind of rectangular in shape. And now I want to tell you, when you're going to roll out pastry dough or Danish dough or bread dough, that we are always going to roll from the center and out. So a little trick that we teach everybody is put a dot in the middle before you start. And that's going to remind you that that's where you start from. You don't want to roll back and forth, because what that's going to do is toughen up this dough to where you won't even be able to roll it. So we're going to roll it from the middle and out, and from the middle and out. And I want to get this near as wide as the rolling pin is long. So I'm going to get all my long rolls in first. And depending upon how much air you've knocked out of it, it might squeak and you'll hear the air come out of it. Then we get it like that, and it's going to shrink back a little bit, and that's fine. And now we're going to push it the other way, from the center and out, from the center and out, and I go to the other end. And all you've got to do is keep taking a look at that as you roll it, and you want to make sure that you continue to keep that rectangular shape in mind. So what I do is let the dough relax just a few seconds and push it back into that rectangular shape. And if you notice, it's getting larger. We've had it out this far already, but we're not trying to get this in one roll. A mistake a lot of people do is that they push really hard and they're going to knock that dough out in one roll. And what happens is it ends up sticking to everything, and it's going to shrink back no matter how hard you push it. So take your time with it. Don't fight it. It will get out as large as you need it just by pushing it from the center and out. So be patient with the dough. If you've slowed the dough up by putting it in the refrigerator, what it's going to do is be extra hard to roll out. So you might have to allow a few minutes in between each roll. So once you have a shape like this, and it's not real critical that this is in an exact rectangle, because we can pull this thing around to wherever we want it. What we want to do with it now is put some egg wash on it. So you take a look at that piece of dough, and we're just going to paint that right up. And we're going to put the egg wash mixture all over that top surface of the dough. And you don't want it real heavy. If you're doing a real big batch, you might end up pouring some on there, and that's a bad idea. Take your time and paint it all on there so you get a nice thin layer of egg wash. It should just get a real shiny look to it. All right, so we did the egg wash, and now we're going to put on some cinnamon sugar. And that's going to go over the whole piece of dough. All right, and once you get that on there, that's not real critical either. These are really easy. Once you get the hang of this, you're going to enjoy it. Now I'm just going to fold this on top of itself, just like that. Now all I want to make sure is that these ends meet up. Like over here where they're not even, I'm just going to stretch one till it meets it and then push them back in there. And the same with that. And now I'm going to move this dough out of the way because it has a lot of flour on it, so I'm going to shake some of that off since this is such a small piece of dough. With a larger piece of dough, we have a dough brush. It's a neoprene brush. It looks like a dustpan and brush, except that it's a brush that stays right on the dough table, and it's used just for taking off the excess flour. But with a little piece of dough, you can take it right off like that. And now we return it to its rectangle shape, and we're going to give that just one quick hit with the pin, and one each way. And then all we're going to do with this, we're going to get all set up, we're going to cut these into strips. Now, the length of the roller, the width of that half sheet is going to determine how big your Danishes are. The second thing that's going to determine how big it is how wide you cut these strips. And what we're making today are minis. And the reason I want you to do the minis is they're a lot easier to handle. You can work in a lot less space. And once you can do these little ones, the big ones are a breeze. So we're cutting them all about the same width. And with this type of knife that we've told you about, we just press this end down and rock with the handle, and it just cuts that right in half. So we go right on down. And that's no problem there. Now we've got all this dough cut into even pieces, and I'm going to pull out a sheet pan, and that's been sprayed. You can also put paper on them if you'd like. And then we're going to make a little room on the board now that we've got these all cut, and we just roll these in opposite directions. And what we're going to do, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it, and then show you how you can do it. We're actually taking this dough, And I'm twisting it to the right with one hand and to the left with another until we get that kind of a spiral look to it. Just like that. Drive the cameraman crazy by moving around. Once you get it like that, just hold it for a second. You'll feel it relax. It can lay it right down on the board and just pull it around itself just like that and tuck that little end under, just like that. And then they go on to our greased sheet pan. Now, to roll them faster, you put the little piece of dough, and one hand's going to go this way and one hand's going to go the other way. You just go right on around over it like that, and you'll pick it up the same way. And then all you do is hold the one end and just bring that around and tuck that little end under. And you can see how flat, and they're very small. Now what's going to happen with these is we're going to let them raise. Now first we're going to egg wash them, then we're going to let them double in size, and then we're going to put some of those fillings on them. All right, but we're going to make a bunch of these right now. And this is the reason these little guys are easier to make. Unless your hands are big or you've got a real big area to work, you're going to need the room. And to practice these, the little guys are much easier to do. You need less amount of dough. You can make more varieties of it. If you make a couple of fillings, you're all set, and everybody can get the one that they want. And I think that you're going to find these are so easy to make that you're going to make them as often as you make rolls. Now, if you had an excuse for not making rolls before, the nice thing about this is you can make your rolls for a dinner tonight, and you can make dessert for either tonight or the next night, because these will freeze and keep very nicely. And what you do with them is make them up like I am, put them on a pan that you want to freeze, and freeze them right away. You don't even let them raise. They would go from this stage, hit them with a little filling, and they go right into the freezer. And what happens then is you take them, thaw them out, and then you would bake them. And when you thaw them out, that's when you would fill them up. But we're going to show you how to fill them now. I got enough here. I have to get enough of these made so I can show you the different fillings on them. I'll do one more. And believe me, this is as simple as I'm showing you. You just push one hand, pull the other hand, and spin that around. And then we flatten the centers out. I'm going to move this, a few scraps out of the way. Now you have your Danishes. We take that egg wash, and we're going to paint right over them again. All right, now they'll be kind of white looking because of the flour that's on them, but you can see once we wash them up, that takes away that excess flour. And the other reason for the egg wash is to make the Danish brown evenly. Because we have sugar, stripes of sugar and cinnamon and stripes of dough, some with flour, some without. If we were to bake these without that, the outside, the flour, would get very dark, and the Danish would brown uneven all over, and it just wouldn't look right. Now to fill these, we'll put a couple of these will be the pineapple. All we have to do is you take a chunk of pineapple and just take your finger and just give that Danish a push. Push it pretty hard, and then you can slide that little chunk of filling right in there. Be sure that you press that in there. Make sure it gets right in there. All right? So we'll make a couple of these because these will go. We push that down. Make sure you push that fairly hard, and then just put that chunk of fruit right in there, and a little bit of the filling can run right into that puddle. Because this has the sugar in it, and what will happen with this is that when this cooks, this sugar is going to turn clear, and it's going to glaze right over that. So we got 4 of the pineapple. Some of the other fillings that you use, remember it's going to be the same procedure for fruits. If you're going to use a streusel topping like this, which is just that crumb topping, and by the way, you can make them plain with this, as I'm going to show you. You just make that little pocket and fill that in with the crumb topping. But you can also take some of this, and that can go on top of the fruits, and it's going to look really, really nice. So I want to fill just a couple more here, and I'm going to fill them all the same way. The apple's going to be done the same way, and I'm going to be filling these. And what I'm going to do is put these in a warm spot. We're going to let these raise. They'll probably take maybe 5 minutes to raise up a little bit, and then we're going to pop them into the oven. So while I'm doing that and getting cleaned up to show you our second half of today's menu, I'd like you folks at home to watch this.
So how's your cousin's new car?
Oh, yeah, my cousin's new car.
Yeah.
He picked it up last week.
All right.
Big celebration.
Yeah?
And I felt like a jerk telling him he should take a taxi home because he had one too many.
But you did.
No, I didn't.
What happened?
Totaled.
What?
Yeah, and him with it.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Take the keys, call a cab, take a stand. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Welcome back. While the Danish is proofing and being baked, I thought I'd like to show you a local favorite, and that's how to prepare sunfish. Many of us can remember, I think, on our first trip fishing, and maybe the first thing we caught was a round, flat panfish called a sunny. And maybe you threw them back, maybe you didn't. However, if you caught some bruisers like this, I hope you didn't throw them back, because these are that same little sunfish, and they're getting to be quite a good size in some of our streams with bass being fished out. These little guys take over, and these are a pretty good size for a sunfish. If you get them this size, you're talking some big fish. I mean, these are trophy sunfish for our area. However, what I want to show you is how to make them a real trophy and a treat. And what we're going to do is, since they are small, and since you either catch a couple or you catch, it seems like tons of them, like they almost attack your bait, when you catch them, take them home and put them in the freezer. Now, the best thing is put them in a little freezer bag as you catch them. Don't gut them, don't do anything to them, just put them right in a freezer bag, lay them flat out, and freeze them. That's what happened to these guys, and we've thawed them out to make them a star today on our program. Now, all you have to do to get these ready, and by the way, we're going to make these kind of a delicate kind of a fish. What we're going to do is take these and we're going to fillet them, we're going to bread them and saute them. So these are going to be pretty classy little guys when we're done. The first thing that you want to do is lift up that little side fin on the fish, and we're going to cut this fish on an angle from the fin and the gill, and we're going to just cut right through this fish. All right? Now, once you've cut through there, now we didn't do anything to the fish. No scaling, no gutting, nothing yet. We take the head off, you'll be left with something like that. Then what we do, knock those entrails out, a little nicer than guts. Then what we're going to do is lay the fish over on its side, depending upon whether you're right or left-handed. But what's going to happen is you're going to end up doing one side or the other that's a little backwards. You're going to look for the backbone right here. There we go. If I get my knife out of the way, there's the backbone. We're going to cut on this side from the backbone up, and I'm going to go right down the fish. So what we do is we start the knife on the backbone, and I'm going to just turn that so I go right down the back of the fish. Now, you will be surprised. For the size of these fish, they're pretty tough customers. Now, once you get it started, hang on to the fillet, keep the knife kind of flat, just like that, and just gently push the knife back and forth, gently. And you should be able to lift off a section of fish just like that with nothing in it but these rib bones right here. That's all that you've got. And we're going to take them out, but that's next. So what we have to do now, we did one side, we're going to flip the fish over. And remember now, the backbone is directly against your cutting board. And you may have the double fins on the belly there now, which may get in the way. So just cut them right off and get them out of your way as we crunch through our fish here. Then we find that backbone again, and very gently just start cutting along those bones. All right, right over top of that center bone. And then place your hand flat on top, and the blade is past my hand when I do that, so you're not cutting towards yourself. And your pressure of the knife is flat, slightly downward and flat. And we're just going to give that a little slice down because there's a couple fins there in the way. We'll poke the knife right through there and down along the tail. Then we'll tip up that half and take it off the same way. Now, there's little fins that are on the bottom. We're going to just take that right off. So you should be left with two sides of the fish. And all you're going to have to do with that now is scoop out these rib bones. And all we have to do with them is take that and just put the entire length of the blade under the entire length of the bones. And this time the knife blade, we're cutting up against those bones, just like that. and they should come right out. Once you get toward the end, we just take that right off. So you have a little bit of a cage of bones there. And then with the tail end facing you, you just hold the tail end down and start your knife in against the skin. Now remember, the skin is flat against the board. And we just move the knife back and forth. And at this point, you can grab the skin, pull the skin and the knife against one another. And what you'll do is you'll remove the fillet of fish just like that. And you'll have a side of sunfish there that's not a bad size, and there are no bones. So this is completely boneless, and it's ready to go. So what we're going to do with that is throw that in a pan of flour right there. All right? And we're going to pass them through our standard breading procedure, which I will cover in a minute. But we're going to take those rib bones out from the other side now. Again, just start your knife on the bottom of the rib cage, keeping the knife up, and they'll pop right off. Then you disconnect them and take them off. Make sure they're all out of there. Turn the side of the fish so the tail is facing you. Put your finger on the tail. Start the knife down and flat against the board. And then grab that little bit of skin. Keep the knife nice and flat. And just pull the skin and the knife in opposite directions. And that's going to come right off. There's the skin, scales and all. We didn't even have to worry about 2 extra steps that you normally would have to do. And now we have the other side of the fish all set to go. Now I'm going to put them into the flour. We're going to show you how to split one more, because that's something that you're going to want to see and make sure you can get it right. And we're going to go a little faster so you get an idea how you can go right through these fish. All right? So all you do is stand the fish up. We're going to cut them right here, right through, right behind the back of the head. We pull out the entrails just like that. We turn the fish over, and we start on the top of the backbone. We'll split that out of the way. You start on the top of the backbone, nice and easy, holding onto that half of the fish. Once your knife gets started, you can hold it like that, and you cut downward and against the fish, and that's the side of the fish. And we'll do the same to this side. And you'll see that that's all you have to do. Now that's going to be your hardest part, is learning how to follow the backbone. And you'll end up with 2 sides of fish, and you'll just skin them and split them right out, and you'll end up with fillets. And that is the biggest thing, is learning how to fillet them. Once you have the fillets down, now you can move on to all this fancy stuff. So we have a pan here. I've got a fire under it. We're going to turn that up just a little bit. And we're going to add some oil to the saute pan. So you've heard us talking about sauteing. You know that we're going to cook this very quickly. We're going to turn these over. Remember, we did them in the flour first. We turn them over and dredge them in the flour. We've got some egg wash left over from our pastry. We pour a little bit of that into a flat, shallow pan. We lift up our fillets. We shake them out like that, the excess flour, and they go right into that egg wash mixture. Then we turn them over, make sure we get them nice and wet, and then they're going to go right into our cornmeal mix. I know you've got cornmeal on the shelf because you don't make cornbread all the time, so this is one of the uses for it. It's going to work out really good. It makes a nice seal on these. Now we pat them in there. Okay, so this is the only one where you worry about pressing them in real nice. Get that patted down, and you'll see that that will completely coat and cover the fish. And that's what we want to do, because we're going to put this very tender fillet that doesn't have anything to protect it into some pretty hot stuff. So we go to our frying pan and we roll that around to evenly distribute the heat. And then we lay the fish in away from us. We start close and then we put them away. I'm going to move that one out of the way. Remember, these are very, very thin. You can see how thin they are. And that goes right in there. Now, the biggest problem that I have with people that are cooking fish is that they overcook it. Fish does not require a whole lot of time, nor does it require a whole lot of heat. So once you get that cooking along like we have it here, you'll see the edges will begin to turn, and they'll cook right up real nice. And the nice thing about these is if you have them ready ahead of time, you can bread them up and put them in the refrigerator or the freezer. And since they're so small, they're going to cook that quickly. So while that's getting set, we're going to get ready to put some of our fresh fish with a garnish. And what we're going to do is just take our lemon, and we're just going to square off the lemon. We're squaring the lemon off by cutting both sides so it'll stand up. And then all you have to do is cut a couple of triangles down along the lemon. We're going to go down one way and down the other way. And all we're going to do, if I get this out of the way, you'll see this real good, is just cutting the lemon. So in the center, I cut that on a slant, and I go the other way. And this is called crowning. And if you want to serve fresh lemon with fresh fish and you want to do it real nice, instead of a wedge, everybody gets a wedge all the time, or a lousy slice. They're tough to squeeze. Put a half a lemon out there, especially with a nice amount of fish. So we just go right on around. And don't worry about meeting it. When you get near the end of the lemon, just match them up as close as you can, just like that. And we're just going to pull that apart, and you'll have a nice little lemon garnish. And that's really nice because there's plenty of it that you can just squeeze that around and get the juice right out. So the fish goes over because they're all but done. They're already crispy. The cornmeal is going to give them a real nice yellow color. And I found that it was a lot easier to get kids, especially teenagers, to try these. They'd caught a lot of them. They'd let a lot go. This they tried. So we have them all ready. We can turn off our fire. And then we can just drain these, and they're all set to go. Remember, because they're so thin, they cook very, very quickly. The other thing that we forget about is that this is going to cook even when it's on the plate, because we've encased it in this breading, and we've applied a lot of heat to it. So we drain them off like that. And that's really going to show up. It's going to really show up nice against our plate. And I want to show you how our Danish turned out. This is one of those times where through the magic of TV, I had some ready ahead of time. But they're the same dough and it's the same Danish. So they're very, very easy to do. And just follow our directions and you'll be able to make a mixture of pastries using a small amount of ingredients and a small amount of your favorite soft roll dough. So these are two dishes that go well together to put together for dinner. So I want to remind you that we may have gone a little fast for you today, that if you'd like to obtain a video copy, send a check for $19.95 to What's Cooking. And this was show number 92-5, care of Channel 14, Pemberton Township High School, Arnie's Mount Road in Pemberton, New Jersey. Our zip code is 08068. Be sure to make your check payable to Pemberton Township High School. So for What's Cooking, this is Tim Paroli saying thanks for watching.